Hello, so now both post-split albums have come out, it's time to have a look at Abbath versus Immortal. So let's start off with a quick history lesson. Immortal are a Norwegian black metal band, first formed in 1991. Two of its key members were Demonaz Dumaculta on guitars and Abbath Dumaculta originally on bass and vocals. Now, they released with different drummers a slew of albums in the 1990s, and all was going well until Demonaz was diagnosed with an acute form of tendinitis that unfortunately prevented him from being able to play constantly at the speed in which he wanted to in Immortal. So he felt that he could no longer play guitar for the band. However, he didn't stop there, as most people tend to when they feel they can't play for a band anymore. No, he became their full-time lyricist. Now, Abbath, who as well as playing bass and being the singer in the band, had also done drums before, he moved off the bass onto the guitar, and ends up having a couple of different bassists in between. Now, on the previous albums where Demonaz had played guitar, the songwriting had sort of been chopped up between Demonaz and Abbath, but once Abbath took over on guitar, it was very much more his musical style on the guitar in particular, with Demonaz's lyrics. And this seemed to work out as quite a good writing duo. At least I quite like the sound of their of Abbath's music versus Demonaz's lyrics. This compositional style would see them through for the next 4 albums, even though they did have a break in between the last third and the last 4th album. Their last album together would be 2009's All Shall Fall, which then had a long tour coming after it. And things at this point started breaking down a little bit. These issues led to Abbath leaving the band in 2015, and he went and formed his own band, Abbath, in which they released this album in 2016. Now, whilst all that was happening, Demonaz decided to take up the reins on the guitar once more, and with the remaining drummer, Hog, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, began work on another album. Now, they had been working with Abbath on the music that later became the Abbath album, and so they sort of created this album and then it sort of fell apart. So they had to start from scratch, and that's kind of why it took them quite a while. It took them all the way from 2015 to 2018 to get out their most recent album, Northern Chaos Gods, which is a return of Demonaz on guitar, and for the first time, Demonaz on vocals on a main Immortal album anyway. And that's where we find ourselves now. So let's see what the differences are, and potentially which is better out of Immortal's Northern Chaos Gods and out of Abbath's self-titled album. So to start with, let's go with the one that was released first, Abbath's self-titled album. Now this is a really good album. I really enjoy this one. It's very much a continuation, for the most part, of Abbath's time in Immortal, but it feels like it's a slightly different vibe to me. Almost as if... Now, anyone who's been in a band sort of gets to realise this at some point. Sometimes you feel that the band itself becomes the identity and you don't want to deviate slightly too much from it, even though you may feel expressively that you want to. Some people are happy to do this, some people are not so happy to do this. Now, don't get this is a black metal album, and it still has a similar vibe, but it's a little bit different. I would almost say, in some cases, it's a little bit more sort of traditional heavy metal. You could definitely feel the influence of people like Judas Priest, well, there's a cover of Judas Priest in there, and Motorhead on Abbath in this album. But what are we but a continuation, a looking forward into the future from the influences of the past, and Abbath most certainly is influenced by those artists that he likes to sort of emulate in his music, but in his own kind of way. Now, compared to Northern Chaos Gods, it's, in terms of heaviness, how you normally see it defined in black metal, it's the lighter of the two. However, in some definitions of heavy, you could see this as the heavier of the two. For example, it's got the slower, thicker sound than Northern Chaos Gods has, for the most part anyway. And to some people, that gives it the heaviness because they like to feel the weight in the music itself. But from what I know of other black metal records, I think you'd normally consider Northern Chaos Gods to be the heavier of the two. The production's pretty good. It's got, you're either going to call it warmer sound, or almost slightly muddier. A little bit on his vocals, I would say, is a little bit muddy sometimes, a little bit under the mix of everything else. But other than that, no, the production on both of the albums is very good and not anything to really scoff at. So let's go through it song by song. So to begin with, we have to War. Now this is a very, very good opener. It starts with these footsteps chugging along, chug, 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 and then you get this chugga, 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 the guitar starts to build, and then bam, right into it with a very much sort of on a similar level to some of Abbath's other Immortal written stuff, just straight into this riff. Really nice, great use of these minor chords. Right into the vocals, it's really, after the main riff, it's very, very strong opener. Really like the song, great song. Second we have Winterbane, once again, fantastic riff, really catchy chorus, almost is that, it's got this sort of shuffle rhythm, but almost makes me think of dance music. If there was ever black disco metal, this would be the closest contender to the song for it, I would say. Really fun song, it's a proper headbanger, great song. Next we have Ashes of the Damned. Now, it's a pretty good song. It's good. It sounds like it would fit in quite well on All Shall Fall, their 2009 release. But then it has this, it has these keyboard synthesized horns that are just really cheesy, and it shouldn't. But for me, it almost slightly ruins the song. But that said, when you look at other black metal bands and other black metal musicians, and you look at Immortal and Abbath as Immortal, there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek. There's a lot of he's enjoying the music. It's not so deadly serious as a lot of other, and I think in particular black metal has that quite a lot, where they're painstakingly serious. And he likes to sort of poke fun a little bit. And I almost feel like this is a bit of Abbath's sense of humour coming forward in him. Good song other than that. Next is Ocean of Wounds, which starts off with a really good drum intro. Other than that, it's a slow-paced, slightly more doomy song, gives you a proper good atmosphere. It's another good one. Then we reach the halfway point, we have Count the Dead, which has a bit of a weird intro once again, Abbath's sense of humour coming through. But then we have the really cool use of harmonics right at the start, and it kicks into this really, it's got a nice grim sounds, is the best way to describe it. And in a weird way, the vocal melody in the verse and in the chorus and everything reminds me of Sepultura's Roots Bloody Roots. So if you're sitting here now, I'd recommend go listen to Roots Bloody Roots and then go and listen to Count the Dead and just see if you're hearing what I'm hearing. Good song. Then we have Fenrir Hunts, pretty good, solid black metal song. Actually, I think it's one of the songs that would fit the best on Northern Chaos Gods if it was on that, to be honest. Pretty good song. Moving on. Then we have Roots of the Mountain, similar, typical sort of Abbath's playing here. Not much too different, but then it sort of gets slightly more doomy, almost a Black Sabbath feel. And if you ever realised, Abbath is Sabbath without the S. After that, it kicks back in with a normal great black metal feel. Then I have Endless. Endless is kind of, it's a lot like some of the earlier songs on the album. It gets a bit, it's uninspired, it's just quite fitting of the rest of the album, doesn't really say a whole lot more. It's got a really nice, fast, relentless pace. It's got that going for it. Then we have Riding on the Wind, a cover of Judas Priest's 1982 album, Screaming for Vengeance. Fantastic song, really good cover of it. You'll either love or hate Abbath's vocals on this, because it's almost like Abbath's attempt at singing like Lemmy, but trying not to. And in fact, it's not surprising seeing as he sings and plays bass in a Motorhead tribute band. But yeah, if you ever wanted to hear a more gurgly Lemmy playing Judas Priest's Riding on the Wind, but with a slightly like black metal-y feel in the instrumentation, as in the guitar tone, then there's the song for you. I will close the album out on Nebula Raven's Winter, which is actually a cover from Immortal's Blizzard Beasts 1997 album. Now, the decision to end on a cover, we shall say, even though I would less feel like calling it a cover because he was in Immortal, but obviously this isn't an Immortal album. I think for some people it'll speak well and some people will speak negatively. Personally, I don't have the problem with it being on the album, but I feel like an Abbath original should have ended it. A true, after Immortal, Abbath original should have ended it. I possibly would have even considered having Towards begin with, as it already is, but then Winterbane, instead of being the second one, being the closer. Even though it's a fantastic second part of it, being the closer I think would have been done quite nice. Although some people would like to, I think some people like the idea of him almost suggesting, look, I'm not letting go of these songs. So obviously, if you ever watch his live videos, you'll see he's still playing like One by One and a lot of the other Immortal songs, so he's not abandoning it. And it's nice that it's on there, but I just feel that personally something else should have closed off the album. Abbath was released in 2016 and features former Gorgoroth and Godseed bassist King of Hell. And his input on this album is really quite nice, actually. In a lot of black metal albums, you don't hear the bass playing kicking through so much. This almost has it's less straightforward, just play the root of everything. And he's kicking through a lot more, and it's got that sort of, that rocky, original metal bass sound. It's punching through a lot more. It's less in the mix of just being this black metal mix, and more of its own beast. And I really actually quite enjoy how his bass playing comes through on the album. I know not everyone's a fan of him, but I think he did a fantastic job on this album. It also features Kevin Foley as the drummer on this album, who I think left shortly afterwards, who ended up being known as Creature on this album. He's played for loads of other people. Solid drummer, really good pick for the album. So to close with Abbath, if you enjoy the Immortal albums where Abbath was playing the guitar, you'll definitely enjoy this album. And even if you don't, it's definitely worth giving it a look. It's got a slightly different feel to it. Really strong album, and it would have that feel, seeing as it was, for the most part, it seems from both parties saying this, was going to be the next Immortal album anyway. It's got definite outside influence in it. Like I said, there's the heavy metal, or traditional heavy metal feel of it, and I guess the new wave heavy metal, speed metal feel to it. There's also almost some hardcore moments in there. Not as strong as their heavy metal, traditional heavy metal influence. There's definitely a couple of hardcore moments in there, and it's got a doomy feel. A lot of the riffs can really sort of bring it back. The really thick guitar sounds. You've got two guitars on this album instead of the normal one you just have on an Immortal album. Gives it a really chunky feel to it. It's got a lot of meat in this album. Fantastic album, definitely worth picking up. Let's have a look at Immortal, or more specifically, Immortal's Northern Chaos Gods. Now I was a bit sceptical of this album to begin with. I thought, no, Abbath, what's it going to be like? Is it going to be sort of... It's not going to be very good, basically. But then when I heard the single of the same name, Northern Chaos Gods, I was just blown away by it. And from when I heard that, I started getting excited to buy this album, and is it a banger? It's a banging album. So after Abbath left, Demonaz and Hurg, please correct me if I'm getting that wrong, started work on what would be the new Immortal album. They'd already been helping to write what ends up being Abbath, somewhat, so they'd already been in the process. They had to start all over again, and that's what took it quite a while, as well as Demonaz's tendinitis obviously being a contributing factor in it. He's even said himself that if they are considering going live again, he wouldn't really be able to do the guitar for it. He wouldn't be able to trust his hand not to start cramping up and getting tendinitis, so he'd have to do vocals. But at least they're considering that option. That's quite good. But yeah, but Demonaz has taken over the spot of the guitar again, as well as the vocals. Now, this is something I was sort of wondering about. I was like, what's it going to be like? Oh, it's grim and good. It is good. Now, it's a bit more shrill, but not in a bad way. It's almost like slightly earlier Immortal, whereas Abbath's vocals have become almost slightly gurgly in how they sound. They're still sharp and put through. There's got a little bit of gurgle, is the only way I can really describe it. Demonaz's vocals sound fresh and new and aggressive, and it's almost as if they had a new member, but it's an old member, a member who's always been there, just now taking the reins more fully, as we've made this new old sound. Now, if you're a fan of original Immortal, you'll definitely like this one. Now, not to say that you'll only like this one if you like original Immortal, and you only like Abbath if you preferred later Immortal. I personally recommend buying both, because they're both great. But this has almost got that older vibe for a modern age. So rejoice, people who don't like the rough and the intentionally rough production stylings of earlier black metal and earlier Immortal albums. I'm not a huge fan of it. For example, I'm not a fan of the production on Battles in the North. I know some people that's what makes a genre. I know that's the point. I know I'm probably a Philistine for even suggesting that the production would be better. But that's how I feel, and I'm really glad that the production quality on this is sharp. It's really good. They brought back the old producer from some of their older albums, who even lent a hand playing bass on the album, which I found quite interesting, seeing as I assumed Demonaz would just play bass himself. This isn't the first release by Demonaz since he stopped. Well, his first performance release, because him and Abbath also played on. He helped write the lyrics for Abbath wrote music for a project they did called I. He'd done one studio album, a solo studio album himself before, and that was 2011's March of the Norse, which had a slightly more Viking metal feel to it, but was almost the return for Demonaz, and that you could almost see that as that was his sort of warm-up to Northern Chaos Gods. I'm in a sense, I'm kind of almost sad that he never took up vocals and more performance aspects with Immortal after he lost the ability to play guitar as much as he could. Because actually, I think the combination of Demonaz on vocals as well as Abbath on vocals, sort of going back and forth, would sound really, really immense. Please, guys, if you ever reform, please do something like that. It'll be amazing. Now, just like with Abbath, let's go through it track by track. So starting off with the title track, Northern Chaos Gods, first thing it does is kicks the door down and just comes at you. Just pure, just straight in there, brutal, grim-sounding black metal. Absolutely fantastic. It sold the record for me. Next is Into Battle Ride, similar to the second track on Immortals on Abbath's album. Keeps the momentum going, has some really quick-fire vocals in this. Great, keeps the vibe going. Brilliant song. Now I reached the point where I'm going to start mispronouncing things. So the next song is Gates of Blashik. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. Once again, if I get it wrong, correct me in the comment section below. But this has got a real sort of old, cold-sounding riff to it. Really, really good song. Then we have Grim and Dark, which sort of almost lulls you into a false sense of album filler to begin with. Doesn't start so strong, but suddenly gets into this really good head-banging riff. The chorus is a real sort of, I'd say shout along more than sing along. Really great song. I can see them doing this live if they ever go back and doing it live. Great song. Then it's Called to Ice. Fun chorus riff. Pretty standard song. Good song. Fits with the album. Then we have Where Mountains Rise, which has a clean intro to begin with, which gives a nice change of pace. There are clean sections in Abbath's album, but I feel that Northern Chaos Gods has a bit more, there's a bit more of a journey to it. He goes up and then comes back down a bit more than Abbath's album does. After this clean bit, it goes into a really fun, quite bouncy riff, and Demonaz's vocals on this are particularly grim and good. Then we have Blacker of Worlds, which has quite a distinct riff, I feel, compared to the rest of the song, and it almost, like Abbath's album does a bit, almost dips into sort of traditional heavy metal vibes, just a little bit. But that's leading right towards the last track. We go right into what's possibly the best song on the album, Mighty Raven Dark. Now for me it's a toss-up between Mighty Raven Dark and Northern Chaos Gods. Mighty Raven Dark starts off with this nice clean intro and then bam, starts coming in and it builds, goes to this riff that has tremolo picking, goes to this quite long song. It's got a real epic vibe. It's only about 10 minutes long, but it's got a really great feel to it. Fantastic closer. It could have almost opened the album if you wanted it to start a bit slower, but as a bookend, what a song. Now back onto the production of this album just for a second. I said about Abbath's album has a warmer sound, but almost in parts it makes it sound a bit more muffled, slightly muddy, but for the most part, larger, warmer sound. Bearing in mind, in this comparison, the way I've heard the albums, both on CD through the same speakers, so it's not a vinyl versus CD, cold versus warm, digital versus analog production. It does just sound a bit warmer compared to the more crisp sound of Northern Chaos Gods, at least to my ear anyway. It's a little bit crisper, a little bit easier to hear, a little bit almost more trebly. Everything just seems to click through a little bit more on the drum side and on the guitar side. Talking about the drums in particular, they're quite reverby. It's almost got a sort of old school extreme metal style. Think early Slayer, or think Venom, or early Creator, for example. That sort of earlier drum sound, just a little bit more reverb, a little bit less of the modern sort of trigger sound, but with a little bit of that in there, the bass drum. Now that said, even though I ever so slightly prefer the production value of this album, it's a bit inconsistent sometimes. Some of the albums are a tiny bit louder than others, some a little bit less. Sometimes one album's, the production quality of the song sounds slightly better than, say, another one. It's not too much, it's not too noticeable, but it's enough that I noticed it. So, but it doesn't ruin the experience at all. It's just slightly a little bit inconsistent. Although the worst that can be said about it is that the ones with the lesser production value, and like I said, it's ever so minor, gives it the tiniest bit more feel of older school black metal, but without the actually bad production quality. This is still good production quality. So yeah, you can almost see that as a stylistic choice, which I would welcome. I think that's quite a cool idea to do the different productions for a different style you're doing. And a lot of people tend to do this for a whole album, then a whole album next to be done in a slightly different style. But actually do it on the same album is definitely an interesting artistic choice. I like it, actually. Now I spoke a little bit about the choice of notes, choice of scales, chords, or rather my how I enjoyed the chords and certain things used on the Abbath's album. Now Immortal's album is, even though it uses a bit more dynamics in the sense of loud and soft, it's a little bit of a simpler album. The music doesn't always sound as complicated. However, from the what I see as black metal definition of heavier, it's the heavier album. It feels a bit more aggressive, a bit angrier, a bit more evil, and it's definitely a more serious album. This one, it has less tracks on it, but they're all new material here. So now we come down to this: which is the better of the two albums? This is a tough one to answer because I really love both the albums. So I'm going to say, before I give an answer now, I'm just going to preface it by saying I think it's whatever mindset you're in. Honestly, so for example, if you want something with more traditional black metal style, it's going to be Immortal. If you want something a little bit different, or it's not got so strict in its black metal stylings, you want Abbath. If you prefer early Immortal, you want Northern Chaos Gods. If you prefer late Immortal, you want Abbath. Even though you can definitely like both if you listen to both. So I honestly feel like neither is the better of the two. I know that's a massive cop-out, but okay, if I had to pick my favourite at the moment, Northern Chaos Gods. However, I feel that Abbath's album is one of the best of his work to come out for the last couple of years. So I'm going to say that both albums actually overtake some of the work before them, but head-to-head, slightly struggling with a... Or am I? I feel like I'm quite an inconsistent person. Or I am when these albums are both this good. I'm really looking forward to what they both next produce, and maybe we'll have another look then. But I would say, if you prefer Demnaz, Immortal. If you prefer Abbath. I'd definitely recommend listening to both, and I even more recommend that buying both to give your support to the artist. But I guess if we're going to go in a black metal head-to-head, let's put the black metal head-to-head, it would have to be Northern Chaos Gods winning. So, please, if you like this, please like, share and subscribe. And if there is anything that you think I got wrong, or you think needs to be brought up that I didn't say, or anything else like that, please write in the comment section below, or even make a video response to this. I'd love to see anything I got wrong, anything I got right that you liked, or anything you want to elaborate on. Yeah, so until then, goodbye.